Learn how to make this lovely felted vessel or pot. You're using a closed resist, merino wool and various yarns. Quite easy to do, about an hour and a half to make and overnight drying. You can see its textures, you can put any pattern you like on the front. It'll be a great fun thing to do. Not necessarily a beginner's project, but great if you've done some flat felting. Learn how to make shapes. Stay with me, subscribe to my channel, and let's see how we do it. First of all, you need to make a resist. Draw around a dinner plate onto some plain plastic, and then you're going to need to lay out your table with a towel, some bubble wrap and your round resist. This one is 23 centimetres in diameter, and I've drawn a spin wheel on it in order to be able to see it when I put it on top of the bubble wrap. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to see it, to see the shape as I lay over the wool. Get ready your fibres, and soon you're going to see your felted vessel hanging up to dry. Here's my plate of various materials. Merino wool, that's about 50 grams. I didn't actually use all of it. Some mohair yarn, some vicose and some Angelina pieces, and also some little curly tops. Get some warm soapy water with dishwasher in it. You're going to be doing it from the outside in, so you're going to put down your design first and then layer over your various fabric colour afterwards. So if you lay out your design, I'm laying out my mohair strips of wool, the boucle wool, which you can get from World of Wool, across, and I'm laying out enough so that they're longer than they're about twice the diameter, so they're about 46 centimetres long, these strips, and I'm wetting them and laying them across as I'm going to wrap the remainder on the other side when I turn it over. You'll see me do this in just a moment. 3 or 4 strips. I'm going to just slightly wiggle them because we want it to be a sort of wavy look. It's a little bit trial and error till you've done a few pots to see how they're going to work. There we go, just wiggling over. So you can see that I can see the edge, because it would be very hard to see the resist on top of the plastic bubble wrap. So by just putting a star in the centre of it with some felt tip pen, I can just see the actual size that I'm working to. And this is just some other mohair fluffy wool that I had. If you've got yarn, you know, any kind of yarn will work. Mainly, at least content must be at least 80% wool. Don't end up with too much polyester type double knit yarn, because it won't felt very well. Mohair and alpaca, things like that are brilliant for this, and you can certainly pick these up from various sites on the internet. I'm just drizzling it around to give it a bit of a wiggle, and then I'm going to then put some little bits of vicose and Angelina, etc., just to give it a little bit of sparkle. Vicose, you don't really see the sparkle till it's dry, so don't worry when it's finished and wet if you don't see any sparkly bits. As it dries, you'll see them come through. Now this is Angelina. Now this is showing you the problem that you have when you do it with wet hands, and I realised I didn't dry my hands off after touching the wool. I'm just going to dry it now. You'll see the towel used a lot. Now pick up it and it'll actually fall away onto your design. Otherwise it just sticks to your fingers. You do have to be careful about keeping dry and wet hands sort of separate as you go around laying down your design. Otherwise you'll find it just sticks to your fingers and you can't get it off, as you can see, brushing it away here. So that's my Angelina bits down, and this is my vicose. Very shiny, tiny slivers of shimmering. I'm doing these sort of spiralling into the centre so that when the bowl is opened and cut, as you could see on the initial pictures, they'll kind of float up the sides. Don't worry if you find that when you've do your final design and it comes out and there's some bits that you would prefer a bit more detail in, because you can always needle felt on a little bit of extra design at the end. I haven't in this bowl. I was very lucky. The design just seemed to work okay and I didn't have too many bare spots. There we go. So that's the design that I'm laying on the top, which will be on the surface of the vessel when it's turned inside out layer. Now here is my main colour. You can do it variegated. You don't have to do one solid colour like I've got. You could do oranges and yellows kind of variegated up from the bottom if you want to. I've just chosen one solid colour so that you can see the way I'm laying it out. Now I'm laying it out in shingles, very thin strips, pulled away from the main roving and just doing it in a fan-like. And I'm overlapping the plastic resist, so I've got about an inch and a half coming over the resist, because that will fold over when it's wet when you see me turn it over in just a few moments. Go around all the outside first, and then you're going to then cover the centre. I'm going to just speed up the video in a few minutes. So you carry on like this, and you're going to do 3 layers on each side, and you'll see me turn this over after the first layer. I'll speed up the video so you don't have to watch too slowly. You look, I'm covered the centre across, shingling across the middle just to fill out the centre, and that's looking reasonably okay. Just have a look for any bare spots and just fill that in. Now I'm just getting my water shaker. If you don't have a browser like I have, you can just get an ordinary drinks bottle, punch a few holes in the top, fill it with hot soapy water, and just shake it over your design. A few minutes away from the camera here because I didn't get organised and I didn't get my shaker ready. Here it is. Mine soaks up water from the bowl, and then you can just spray it over the top and basically wet it down reasonably generously in the first couple of layers, because as you put extra layers you want the water to have got through to the very centre of your felting so that it works, and you can see the soap there coming in from the bowl, fuzzy. And then you're going to sort of pat this down. Now to pat this down, to make sure you get the air out of the wool to begin with, I'm putting a bit of fine netting over the top, so I can just pat down and not end up with the wool stuck all over my hands. And then I'm going to peel that away before I flip the project over. Now I'm just using my little moolie just to kind of rub in a little bit of the soap there, just to get it completely flat. Right, and then I'm going to just pull that away. You're just going to have to pull it away from the netting. It will try to grip the netting. Just pull it away a little bit like that. There we go. Now this is very fragile at this point, so you've got to be very careful. Get hold of the edges of the resist and lift it up. The wet will hold it to the resist for the moment, and flip it over. And then you're going to go around the edges and just basically fan it in. Now you're going to take the individual strips of yarn as well and bring those around to this side of the project. So basically they wrapped around the whole of the bowl, and you can see that you're going to have to just fiddle around a little bit, pull them out because they will have got stuck together, and just drape them like you did the first side. Sort of wiggly lines around the other side. My 2 mohairs have got stuck together there, pulling them apart a little bit. It's wet and sticky, but it is easy to do when you get going. And then you just fold over the edges of the merino wool into the middle. I didn't mark which was the bottom and which was the top of my bowl, which you'll see later when I cut the holes. I just took potluck which side was going to end up on top and which side was going to end up on the bottom, mainly because they were very similar. But you could make a little mark or remember which side it is, the even side when you're turning it, or the odd numbered side, so that when you do end up cutting it, you know which side you're going to cut. And you could, at the very last layer, just put a blob of a different colour on top of your wool, so you know which side, a bit like a stitch marker in knitting, so you know which side you've got. I didn't do that. Here we are, just untangling the wools and kind of laying them randomly across the design. Almost there. And then I'm going to put another layer of merino wool, and then that's going to be my first layer, both sides. And then I will speed up this video so you can see. It's important to see how the first couple of layers do, because that's the centre of your project. It's going to be your outside. It's going to be the bit that's going to show. There we go. I'm drying my hands again because it's wet and I'm about to touch the dry wool. Otherwise I'm going to be stuck to it again. So here we go. I'm just putting some of the Angelina pieces, the shiny pieces, down. All of these supplies I got from World of Wool, and I will put the address down below so that you can get hold of these. If you're in the UK, very easy to get hold of. If you're in the US, then I'm sure you can get lots of these supplies from Living Felt, who do supply most felting supplies across the US. I think they're in Texas. We don't get them here in the UK because of the extra delivery costs. And then we've got some Vicos showing out there. That's done my pattern. There we go. Last little bits. My hand's getting a bit sticky. And I'm putting some, finally just putting on the one side. I didn't think to put it on the other side, so I won't bother to go back. Just some little curly locks, wiggly pieces in purple, just to give it a bit more dense side. This actually ended up as the bottom of my bowl, actually, so looked quite good. Worked out quite well. Right, and then I'm just going to wet them very lightly, just those few fibres, just to keep them down before putting that last layer of merino for the first complete layer of my bowl. You're going to do 3 complete layers, so you're going to do 6 sides altogether. And as I said, 50 grams of merino should be more than sufficient. I had probably about 15 grams left, and mine was quite a nice thickness when it was finished. You can see again, putting it out to the edges, letting it overlap. All in all, I started this at 10 in the morning, and I finished it and had it hanging up to dry with a balloon inside to give it shape by about 11:30, 11:40, so about an hour and 40 minutes. If you're a beginner, it should take you a little bit longer, so you want a couple of hours probably to be able to do this. Okay, that's my edges, just filling in a few gaps that look a little bit thin. It's best to try and get it even, because you don't want a thick side and a thin side. That just comes with a bit of experience after you've done it a few times. I'm just going across the centre. Cover that up. Sometimes it comes out in small pieces, sometimes in nice wisps. Depends whether your roving has been carded or not. There we go. Pop it down flat with my hand. Feel the water coming through from the bottom a little bit. Not too much. You may find you get a lot of water on the project as you go along, so do have something plastic on your table underneath the towel like I have. I've got a plastic table covering. And you'll see me mopping up with the sponge along the way. if too much water's come through into the project. Right, so I'm going to dry my hands again, and then I'm going to squash out the air. You won't need to do this quite so much as you get to the next layers, but first couple of layers you want it to be relatively flat. You're wanting to hold it in place. You don't want it to move around too much, or your design will shift. Again, dry my hands just for a second, and then I'm going to pick up the edge again and flip it over. Didn't get my camera quite in line. I set it up. Hopefully you can see enough. Then I'm folding in the edges. There we go. Brilliant. Right, so that's one layer each side. I'm just going to stop the video for a second, and then I'm going to speed up the next sections. Right, now you're going to see the slightly sped up video doing the second side. That's spinning around, quickly wetting that, flattening it down as again, turning it over, folding in the edges, doing the second side of the second layer. Again, evening it out, wetting it over, flipping it over. Right, that's the second side. And you can see the sponge there just mopping up a bit of the water, starting to get a bit soggy. Then here we go. My camera angle is changed because I've swapped it around. Don't know why I did that. Flip that over again. And then we're going to get to that final side shortly. I think I was just getting a bit of wool there that wasn't running right. The very final side, you don't need to put it over the edges. You only really need to cover the centre because you've already got the thickness coming round from the other side. So at the final side, you're going to just do just across the centre and leave the sort of last inch, otherwise you'll end up having to flip it over again and it'll start to get too thick because you don't want the edges when you take out the resist to be thick and have a line around the middle of your pot. So just put that over the centre as your final one. And then we're going to wet that. Sorry, the camera's gone a little bit off the pitch there, but hopefully you can see what we're doing. I'm just sort of putting bits around the curve just to take it right up to the edges as much as I can. But I don't want it to overlap because I'm not going to be flipping it over. My hands got a little bit wet there, trying to get my hands to release the wool again. Quick, the towel, always have a towel handy, useful. And then I'm going to wet out this final side. Flattening. I have dry hands when I'm flattening these down, but I did think twice that this is going to be a bit sticky, so I decided to put my water on and my net just to do. There you go. I didn't even need the net. Just flatten it with my hands once it was wet. So now I've got my patter cake, as I call it. I remember when you used to make mud pies when you were kids. And then I've put some extra olive oil soap on it. You can see just a little bit more soap there. I rubbed it in my hands and put it over. And now we're going to do the actual rubbing. So here we are. We're now going to rub. We're going to get lots of olive oil soap into the work. And cover it over with a bit of net, use my mully, and we're going to be rubbing. And we're rubbing to try and get the felting stage, the first stage together. So we've done our preparation, now we're felting. And basically it's just a lot of rubbing motions, getting the thing. You're trying to get the wool to blend to have a sort of skin on it so that you basically, it can be moved around and then you're going to be able to reach the sort of rolling stage. You will reach a point where it's firm enough to take the netting off if you want to do it a bit hard. Now I'm going to just do a quick pinch test to see that the wool is holding together. If it is, then you should be able to move on to the next stage. If you do have a sander, then you can use it at this stage after the initial rubbing just to sort of firm it up. It just means perhaps you can cut down on the rubbing slightly like I have, and it gives you the ability to agitate the fibres automatically. There are lots of videos. I'm not going to go into the use of a sander here. If you want to find more, then certainly have a look at various. Lena Archbold does some brilliant videos showing you how to use a sander, and I might do one eventually. And I'm just turning the project over, and I'm going to do it from the other side. So basically just a few seconds, 5 to 10 seconds on each impression. What you'll notice at the end of the rubbing or at the end of using a sander to finalise it off is that the edges are starting to get a bit crinkly. This is because the wool is starting to shrink smaller than the actual resist inside, so it's starting to curl up inside. This is the point when you know that you reach the right stage. So if you're looking at the very edges, you can see me sort of looking at them now, just starting to feel that that is actually getting there. So now I'm going to stop rubbing, and I'm going to start the rolling process. So here is the next stage, which is rolling, and this is going to continue the felting process. So you're not reaching the fulling stage, which is the next stage. This is still the felting and rolling stage. Put another piece of bubble wrap over the top of your work. Get a nice big rolling pin, broom handle, whatever you're going to use to roll. I use an icing roller. I find that it's nice and heavy, and it gives me some firmness. And then you're going to do several rolls. So you're going to do about 50 rolls one way. Then you're going to lift up, and then you're going to turn it a quarter turn, 90 degrees, cover it over, and then do another 50 rolls. I'm not necessarily going to show you all of these on the video. And at the end of that, you're going to have a look and see whether your resist, now you can see it's starting to get baggy, the felt around it. The resist, you know, is curling up at the edges on the inside. So I'm just going to what I call palm, which is rubbing a bit of soap and getting my hands around the very edge to make sure the edges have felted. What I don't want to do is find that the edges haven't felted when I pull it apart. So keep going around, just palming it between your two hands, rubbing it back and forwards, and then when you'll finish that, pop that down, cover it over again, and then do another 50 rolls each direction. So ultimately you'll have done 200 rolls initially and another 200 rolls this time round. It's important because you want to get it firm and sturdy felt. It needs to be felted together really, really well. So you want it when you've dried it for it to stand firm. Just moving my work because it's sliding out of view. Doing all the rolls. Again, not showing you all of the rolls, but I'm doing sort of possibly not 50 in each direction, probably 30 in each direction on the second set of rolling. So we've done rubbing, and then we've done rolling, one set of turns, and then rolling again, the second set of turns with the work turned over. This is important stages because, you know, this is where the rigidity and the soundness of your felt is made. When you reach the fulling stage next, which is sort of going to keep rolling to shrink it, it's slightly different because it's about getting the size that you want and pulling in the felt, but this first rolling stage is very important to get the felt done. And if you do skimp on it, you will feel that it's just not really as rigid and it's not as firm as you'd like when you get to the end, and you'll be a bit disappointed. But the wonderful thing with felting, you get to the end of a project, you dry it and you don't like it, you can wet it and continue rolling it again. So you can go backwards. You can actually roll back the video and go back and put some more rolls into it. So you can actually re-wet a project and firm it up further if you find that you've stopped too quickly. So now we've reached the situation where we're going to decide where our hole is going to be, where we're going to actually cut our hole. Now, I'm just checking the size of my work first. I started at 23 centimetres and around about 19, 18 centimetres. And I'm just sort of looking now to take the centre of that, cut my little hole. Just making a sort of, because we need to remove the resist for the next portion, so it doesn't have to be a perfect hole, you can trim it later. Just need to get a little section out big enough so that you can pull the resist through and then end up with the work for the next part. Fiddly, fiddly, fiddly. You're trying to do your voice over these seem to take forever. There we go, cutting around. That's probably it. As you can see, then I'm going to lift the resist out. So I'm just going to grab hold of the plastic that's inside, pull it through the hole. That's it. We've got that out. That's brilliant. And then I'm going to just get my fingers in and just have a look. Sorry, it's slightly out of shot. Not brilliant at making videos, but I'm trying to get better. Now you can see I've just put my fingers in to open it out, and I want to have a look at the edge, the ridge. I'm going to wet that and soap it a little bit, just to try and get the crease out of it, because I don't want that to show. I don't want the line where the resist was to show. So I'm just wetting it, a bit of soap on there, bit of rubbing of hands, again slightly out of shot, but hopefully you can see what I mean, what I'm doing, just about. So rubbing all around the edges there. And you've got to soap this quite a bit just to get, because you would have put more of the soap and more of the energy into the flat sides of it. So you need to be able to just jiggle around the edge here. So give the piece a good old rub and then lay it down and flatten it out. And turn it inside out. And then you get the beautiful look of your felted bowl. Rinse through your work and then squeeze it out and lay it ready. I'm going to do the next stage, the fulling stage. And I'm going to put a bamboo mat down because this is how I like to do it, but you can use a set of bubble wrap if you don't have one of these. You can buy these from Highly Feathers or World of Wool, lots of different places. And then I'm going to do more rolling, surprisingly enough. Sorry for the shaky video. Try and get that out of that. So we're going to do a good few rolls one way, and then we're going to turn it around again, a quarter turn, and roll the other way. You'll see it's slightly oblong at that point. It shrinks in the direction, and the fulling stage shrinks your work. It shrinks in the direction of your roll. So if you keep turning it, you'll get a very even shrinkage, and you'll be able to keep it inside a circle. So if you keep doing that, that will work. And there we go, turning it round and round. So that will work brilliantly. Just keep fluffing it up so you don't get a crease in it, back in the shape of your resist. But you do need to be able to put it flat to roll it. So continue rolling in each different direction. Be careful sort of how your hole, whether it stretches, sort of you want a nice even hole, so do kind of work the direction of your roll to enable the shrinking in a nice kind of even way. I probably didn't mention it before, but after you've cut your hole, make sure you soap around the edges and rub hard just to kind of seal the edges so they're not sort of a cut edge, because you don't really want them sort of fraying out or what have you. So that should work quite well. You think you've got to a sort of stage where you feel that it's felted and it's full, it's the right kind of size, then there's the time that we need to insert a balloon, so that we can dry the work and get it into a shape, because you want it to hold a rigid shape while it's drying so it hardens. Otherwise you're going to get all that bagginess and creasing in it. So blowing a balloon up inside, not that easy, wants to come out the top, but keep going until you've got a nice firm sides, best you can. I actually did an orange balloon, and then later on I changed it and put a silver balloon in because it seemed to, a different thickness of balloon that seemed to work better to get my shape and got those last kind of little wrinkles out. So the thicker the balloon, I think the better it'll push out the wool and shape it. And then you've got to dry it, but if you dry it over a radiator, the balloon might pop. So I had an ingenious idea of hanging it over a radiator, so I got the heat, but I didn't actually get the issue. So let's see if that works for you. You'll see that in a few seconds. Just pushing out the little wrinkles and stretching it around gently. You might pop the odd balloon, but hopefully it should work. Looks quite good. You start to get a feel of what the pot's going to look like and get the shape, etc. in it. And there you go with it taken out. Doesn't look too bad. This is in fact not actually dried yet. I've just taken the balloon out because I want to show you another method if you don't have a balloon, which is basically you can stuff paper in it to get the shape that you want. I decided this was far too fiddly, and I ended up putting in a different balloon. So as you'll see later on when you see mine drying, it's not exactly like that. But if you do stuff it with paper, you can achieve a slightly flatter shape of bowl, so it does give you some sort of flexibility. Here's my project hanging up to dry. And finally, my felted bowl. Video showing you the shape inside, the plain colour. Nice even top, lots of lovely colour. There you go. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have, please subscribe to my channel so you can see other videos, and enjoy felting. I absolutely love it, and I really hope I can encourage some of you to try it out. Thank you. Bye.